Okay, this is how to put together a KDS with the quick release brackets. Now, I kept the plastic on the front of the screen, but you guys can take that off. On the back of these monitors, we're going to put in 4 screws that came with the bracket. These 4 screws are going to go on the back. As you see, there is a thumb screw flat piece that's on that trapezoid looking bracket, and it's going to be towards the bottom of the monitor where my thumb is currently now. Now, I am going to put the power in first. The power for these monitors may change because the monitors may change over time, but for this one, it's a small round cable plugged into the monitor, as well as I'm going to connect the VGA to HDMI cable as well. Okay, so I'm gonna connect the VGA to HDMI cable, VGA to the bottom of this actual monitor. Hand tighten only, no need for screwdrivers. We do not want to damage this piece in the event that we need to remove it. All right, so if you look at the back of the monitor, that piece of metal that we affixed to with the 4 screws is the quick release plate. We are now going to get the quick release bracket, which is the bulky giant square thing right here. And that screw right there is going to seed or connect into the quick release plate. Now this quick release bracket slides in, bam, it's connected. We're going to use our drill or screwdriver to screw the quick release bracket into the quick release plate. We are connected, and now that quick release bracket is not going to go anywhere. This is the QSR controller. The QSR controller acts as the onboard computer for this device, and we will be assorting all of our cables for this device. Now, we have a LAN cable, which is 7 feet. We have a USB that connects our bump bar. We have a power supply that actually powers the QSR controller. And last but not least, we have the VGA to HDMI that acts as the display. Now, these cables work in cohesion to operate this device. And what we're going to do is get them all nice and together, and we're going to tuck it in to the bottom part where the QSR controller actually slides into. Now I'm sliding them in, as you can see. They're going to go all the way up to the top, and I'm going to pull them out. 1, 2, 3. And what I'm going to do is plug them up first to make it easier for myself. LAN, that's the USB. This is the HDMI to VGA. It's plugged in. They're all good. And what I'm going to do is lay them down and just slide the controller on top. This makes it seamless. And not only that, we can dress the cables at the top, make them look nice, and the way that they come out the bottom also looks nice. Now, moving forward, we have not a lot left to do, but we're going to be installing the power supply as well as cleaning up these cables. Now, I know what you must be thinking. We're not done yet. We're almost done. Now, I like to note that when we're adding zip ties to any KDS, we do not need to exceed a certain limit. That way we can remain efficient while we're doing this. In my opinion, every KDS should require 7 zip ties, nothing more and nothing less, just so it's neat. I'm putting the first one at the top where the arch is for these cables going inside of the controller. If it's at the lowest point and you pull out slack, there's no reason for this to be stressed or stretched going into the controller and coming out. Now, I'm going to be adding more, but before I do that, I'm going to actually build our bump bar holder. Now, if you look, we have the bump bar. We're going to align our holes in the middle. That bag of screws that came with the quick release bracket has 2 hex screws in it. These 2 hex screws can be actually thumb tightened down, what you're going to see me do right here. And you can actually take off the bit to your screwdriver and actually use that as well to get a tighter hold and a tighter connection, which is recommended. Now I'm doing this, and I apologize that I am not fancy like some of you guys with some of your new gadgets. But if you look at that real quick, I'm just sliding it in and it's good. And if you look, the screw holes for that bracket are on the left side. You see that? We always want our door to be on the left side. So I'm putting the 2 screws in it in the same bag that you got the hex head screws, the 2 small screws. Screw it a little bit in, get my other screw. I'm gonna screw that in a little bit. And bada bing, bada boom. We're good. Tighten both screws just to be sure. We're gonna line up those holes and we're gonna put in our thumb screws. Our thumb screws hold and affix this T-bar or this bump bar set to the quick release bracket. Nice and tight, righty-tighty, all the way down. And what I like to do is throw my hand in between the quick release bracket monitor as well as the bump bar to get a nice 1.5 inch gap. And what I'm going to do now is start my zip tying process. But before I do anything else, I have to add the power supply to the actual monitor. So I'm actually adding it to the QSR controller first, and then the secondary power will actually go to the monitor itself. As you see, I'm folding these to make sure that they're good. If I can bend the cable before we zip tie it down, any way we handle these cables afterwards, there will be no problems, as in cables being snatched out, pulled out because of stress or tension on the cables. All right, moving forward, I'm adding more zip ties. I added one on the braid. This is one on the actual bump bar itself, on the back of the arm. Make sure it's tight. Snip all the tails off. These are flush snips, by the way. Nobody gets cut on my watch. And our zip tie limit right now is currently at 3. This is actually going to be 4. What I do is I actually pull up the cables, and if I pull it up enough and I throw it into the bottom of that, no matter how far I drop that bump bar, the cable will not escape and the cable will not fall. That leaving enough slack, meaning you can be as flexible and as lucrative with cable management as well as dexterity with the device as possible. From this point on, I'm just adding the remainder 3 zip ties just to balance it out. I believe that is the 5th zip tie right there. Just zipping it up, getting it going. I'm going to snip this bad boy too. Last but not least, after putting all the zip ties on, you are going to tuck your cables into your KDS heat-resistant sock. This sock you will see in most kitchens, this right here, and it's going to always be wrapped around any cables around or near the kitchen line. These protect the cables, these keep the cables safe, as well as it keeps them dressed in uniform, so it's out of sight, out of mind for the customer. Now, I'm just slowly tucking these in, and I know it's a bad angle shot, but once you see this in person, just tucking them in is very easy. Now, at the end of this, I always add one more zip tie to the end, which would add 6, and sometimes I add another one if I did a very good job of dressing before the sock. And there you have it, folks. You are done. You cable managed to the degree you need to, but now you're done.